Kalamazoo Historic District Commission meeting to order. Could we have a roll call vote or a roll call, please, for the commissioners? Remember to say where you are too.
I'm Dan Kastner. I'm in Kalamazoo.
Thanks, Dan.
Dana Underwood in Kalamazoo.
I'm Jeremy Berg, also in Kalamazoo. Stuckey, looks like you're muted. Oops. We've only done this like 16 times, but here we go.
There he is.
Eric,
Oh,
you're still muted. If you could unmute and say your name and where you're at, that'd be awesome.
Oh, here we go.
Oh.
Eric Stuckey, present, finally,
Great. In Kalamazoo, correct?
in Kalamazoo. Yes, sir.
Excellent. All right, the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda, Sharon, that we should know about?
no, there are not.
Great. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda from our previous meeting,
For our current meeting.
For
or
our
as
current
current
meeting.
agenda as stated on the,
I'll second that.
sorry.
All right, thank you, Eric. Thank you, Dana. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, hearing none, the agenda is approved. Introduction of guests. Are there any guests who are present that are not presenting today? All right, hearing none. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items for the commission?
No public comments at this time.
Thank you. All right, it's time for the disclaimer. Sharon, would you mind reading the disclaimer, please?
Yep. Chapter 16, Section 22 of the City of Kalamazoo Code of Ordinance states, historical preservation is a public purpose. To serve that purpose, the Historic District Commission is hereby charged with the following responsibilities. A, the Kalamazoo Historic District Commission is empowered to regulate work on the exterior of historic resources and non-historic resources in historic districts in the city of Kalamazoo, and shall otherwise have all powers invested in historic district commissions pursuant to the Local Historic District Act, MCLA 399.201, 1970, PA 169 as amended 1992. B, to regulate work on resources which by city ordinance are historic or non-historic resources located within local historic districts, including but not limited to the moving of any structure into or out of, or the building of any structure in an historic district. The following documents are available in the Community Planning and Economic Development Department located at 245 North Rose Street. These documents will help assist property owners in understanding the responsibilities of owning property in a local historic district. MCLA 399.201, 1970, PA 169 as amended 1992, the Michigan Local Historic District Act, the Code of Ordinance of the City of Kalamazoo, Michigan, Chapter 16, Historic Districts, the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation and Guidelines for Rehabilitating Historic Buildings, 1990, Standards and Guidelines for Kalamazoo Historic Districts, and maps of Kalamazoo's local historic districts. These documents and maps are also available on the City of Kalamazoo website at kalamazooCity.org/historic preservation.
Thank you, Sharon. I hope that reading that is part of the application process for the new coordinator, because it should be if it's not, because that is a minor miracle every week or every month that you do that so well. All right, hearings. There's no old business, so we'll move right on to new business. 911 South Park.
I'm going to share screen, so.
Yep. Could we have the applicant or the applicant's representative please tell us about the project and let the commissioners know what you're trying to do?
Hi, good evening. My name is Aaron Lane Davies. My wife and I, my wife Elizabeth and I own 911 South Park and occupy it. I work at Bronson and enjoy my 6-block walk to work every morning. We're proposing to place photovoltaic solar panels on south-facing roofs as well as in-house battery backup system for emergency power. As you can see, the proposed panels would be on 2 sections of south-facing roof. The first to the east of the dormer that's projected there, and then on the back section of roof, which is not visible from the street at all. These would be black on black panels in the orientation and distribution shown in the diagram. Our partners at Alt Energy have helped with design and with input from Sharon on preferred placement and style of panels. We are eager to get this project underway and appreciate any feedback and or comment.
And I guess since I technically was or wasn't a presenter, I wasn't sure. I'm Chad Becker, and I am also I'm here on behalf of Alt Energy, who is the contractor he mentioned for this project, and the next solar project we'll be talking about.
Thank you, Aaron and Chad. Any questions from commissioners, comments, thoughts?
I had just had a question.
Mhm.
I don't know why anybody would want to remove the solar panels, but if they did, is it correct that that would be A, relatively easy to do, and B, leave little damage or require little repair to the existing roof?
Yeah, arguably, if you were to remove these flashings that kind of tuck underneath the standard shingles, they would leave behind, like, some residue, maybe just from the gasketing, and then like one little hole penetration that if you were to do a really rough job of it, you just move on, you'd fill the hole and move on. But most people would probably just repair the shingle at that point, which would involve just repairing a few strips of shingles. I'm sure less than a square. Wouldn't be a big deal for any roofing contractor to fix those holes left behind.
Thank you.
And the roof just looks like a 3-tab asphalt shingle.
Mm-hmm.
And
And I'm looking at this wonderful red line. That's all inside the attic, right?
Yep, and it's this incredibly accessible attic that Aaron's also allowed us to build inside. So that will be really easy to run inside until we might pop out on I believe when we were talking before. Oh wait, you know what? Actually, that is something that can be debated at the time of. There is actually a chance that you wouldn't see any of. And I wish I don't have a cursor on the screen, but you see how the red line? It would probably be internal from this back, where your cursor is now. To the front array, but there's a chance we'd actually want to pop straight off the roof and straight down from the bottom of that more southern array.
But that would still be in the valley here, so it wouldn't be visible from the.
It would be, Sharon, and where Chad's describing is in the lower left picture. There is just below the dormer, there's a little drain pipe that comes down. There's actually a gap between the 2 roofs. My preference would be is that we conduit under that eave and then drop down near the meter into the house.
Okay. I see. I think the upper right picture shows that gap.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
So it'd be kind of hidden by that where that storm or the drained pipe from the water comes down from, right? Yeah. And we would paint the conduit. I think could either drop there or further forward. We would paint the conduit to match the siding.
If it does need to be on the surface, then okay.
Yep.
Great.
And then you've got enough pitch on your roof, Aaron. You aren't going to do any kind of brackets, engineered brackets or anything. It's just going to be standard aluminum channel.
I'll defer to Chad on the technical aspect of the bracket.
There's definitely no extra elevation going on. It will just be regular aluminum rails.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably even a document that we provided Sharon that might be at the bottom of this pile. It just shows it's going to be like only like 4 inches off the roof. There's no crazy profile going on.
Sounds great. Sounds great.
Sharon,
There.
I'm wondering, does this fall under the purview of like roofing? Like we don't have to approve roofing, do we?
We do, that's usually an administrative approval.
Yeah.
Roofs are approved, but it's always administrative.
Right.
There is a building permit required for this, but the building department has already reviewed everything and they're fine with it. So as soon as our approval is done, they can get started.
Do you think ongoing this would fall under our purview, or do we decide if it's, an administrative approval or?
For solar, at least until we get a little bit more history under our belts, I think it should stay as commission approval rather than administrative. But we might in the long run want to, the commission would be able to say, as long as it's located on the rear half of the house, it's not highly visible from the street, that kind of thing, they might be willing to make it an administrative approval. But I would say that's down the road after we have a little more experience. This is only our second and third installation in all the districts. So we want to, I think we need to be more involved while we're setting up some, not precedence isn't the right word, practice.
Yes, I believe that makes sense. Any other questions, comments from commissioners?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, you're put some thought into it. You're in line with your roof. You're disguising your conduit. Yeah, I'm all for it. We need to start thinking this way. I have panels myself, but my pitch is a lot lower, and I wish I'd have had a pitch like your roof. I'd get a lot more production. So it's going to be great for you, Aaron.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I walk by your house frequently on my way to and from work. I really admired the panels, and so we're super excited to get it going.
Awesome.
Is there any public comment on this case?
No, there's no public comment at this time.
Great. All right. Is there a commissioner willing to make a motion, or do you want to have more discussion?
I'll make a motion. If I could read this, let's see. I move that we approve the installation of 15 solar panels as specified. The proposal complies with Secretary of the Interior Standards number 9 and 10. And the commission approves a certificate of appropriateness for this project. Approval of any final details to be delegated to the Historic Preservation Coordinator.
Thank you, Dana. Is there a second or support for this motion?
I second it.
Second.
All right, I heard Dan first, so thank you, Dan. Any other final comments before we take a roll call vote? All right, hearing none. Casey, would you please take a roll call vote, please?
Dana,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
So tomorrow, for Chad and Aaron, tomorrow the letters will go out probably as an email attachment, and I will also clear the building permit. So you should be able to get started as soon as you can get your rigs out there.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate the opportunity to be here and the approval of this project.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. All right, moving on to case number 2, 1552 Academy. Do we have someone here to present to the commission?
I'm
This is,
also-
go ahead, Chad.
Oh,
Go ahead,
I was just
Chad.
going to say I'm involved with this one as well, but now I see Scott's there. So please go ahead, Scott.
Well, yep, my name's Scott Heninger, and I'm also working with Chad. So this is very straightforward, very similar to the last project. It is on a room that this historic district approved. That room right there, which is in the back of the house. This is on that little tot lot in the off Academy. So that upper left-hand corner picture you see is the front of our house from Academy Street. And then the picture below it where our van is the back of our house. Next to a shed, there's a van next to a shed. And the solar panels are going to be on that room, which is not visible at all from the street. I mean, it's visible from the alley behind the house, but it's not visible from the street that people drive by. That shows it really well right there. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, we've tried to see it. You can't see it at all from Academy Street. It'll be completely unnoticeable.
since I can no longer levitate after I had my COVID shot, I couldn't get a picture from up above, so.
So Chad, you have all the good details. I'll just let Chad talk. But anyway, we're really excited about it as well.
All right, then, yeah, I don't have the cursor moving abilities, but yeah, 24 solar panels already. We've already talked with the fire marshal about the fire access pathways on the sides and the top. So that's why you see them positioned a little bit lower, but yeah, since we know they're not going to be visible from the main road at all, and you'd have to really try if you try to see it from the alley. We weren't seeing any real issues here. And his pipe, this one probably will be external, but it would be, if you see where those two panels are, it would, if anything, it'll just be running on that little bit of roof. They'll kind of connect internally, and then they'll be running off that roof right to the main panel that's not that far from being directly below that. Just a little run inside his little breezeway there.
Chad,
Yes.
can we go back to that picture you were just showing?
This one?
So are there, it might be, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I think we're freezing up a little bit,
Yeah.
or maybe I'm just
Yeah. I think you're a little rough, Scott, but we can hear you. So go ahead. Oh, no.
hear me. So Chad, so the breeze on the right side of that picture, it's see the side with the missing panel has two fewer. That's where the breezeway is, where our electrical box is. So it's possible that, are there going to be panels on that as well? Yeah, that cursor is, I thought.
Oh, you're right.
there were
You're
gonna
right.
be
The electrical
panels there
panel is
too,
on
but
the other
maybe not.
side there. You're right. So we'd probably hide the conduit.
It's on the other side.
It'll actually probably be external, hidden, kind of on like the back side of the garage, but it'll be hidden on that other, on the external, and then it'll just pop down and around. You're right. I forgot that we had moved panels to the other side once we considered those pine trees to your east.
Yeah, see,
Like where,
under here.
Yep, exactly. Thank you. That's a
Oh,
perfect,
yeah.
perfect point. And once again, very unvisible from the road, that whole area, really.
Great. Is there any questions from commissioners?
and then I actually have a quick question for Chad.
Yeah.
Well, while people are thinking, Chad, people are asking all these questions earlier in the last presentation about angles and pitches. Would it help to just give a teeny bit of pitch towards the south? Are they going to be good flat? Or will they?
Well, there's two thoughts there. One, for the sake of the commission, I know that they don't like to see any extra, based on the documentation I provided Sharon, they don't like to see any extra tilt up. And this, just for the common rail that we are going to be installing, like we have to change entire systems to really talk about this, at this juncture. But also, yeah, I can, but just for the sake of everyone's kind of curious about solar, and that comment from, sorry, was that Dan that already had solar on his house? I might have missed it. Anyways, but
Eric.
Yeah.
oh, Aaron, all right. You know, he wished he had more pitch, and that's what I'm sure you're alluding to. It's really like the ideal pitch, as I've got it graphed out, is anywhere between 22 degrees and 33 degrees. You're kind of in your sweet spot in Michigan. I guess the more due south you are, you want a little bit more pitch can only be helpful. But when you're going anywhere to east or west, and somewhere between 22 and 33 is ideal. And then when you go down to about where you're at, I bet you're like, you're somewhere in the 18, 22 realm. Yeah, I mean, you're only losing about 4 percentage points, really. Like it's not as dramatic of a problem as you might think. But yeah, you've already got the PV watts that was put in your proposal for you. It demonstrates exactly what this one should create.
All right. Sorry to bring up an additional.
No worries. I like, sometimes people want to hear the extra little metrics. Gladly.
Well, this does feel pretty similar to the last one. Is there other questions from commissioners?
No, I would comment that you've made some smart moves by having the walkways up there. They were supposed to do that for me on my request, and the day of it, in reality, they didn't do that for me. So
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good move. And by the time you go into engineering brackets to change that angle, you're better off adding a couple more panels, I think, aesthetically, if nothing else. So, yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
great.
there's a couple panels missing from it just because there are some pine trees we were debating
Mhm,
about.
mhm.
So, yep. Shade wise, yep.
Is there any public comment on this case?
No public comment at this time.
Great, thank you. All right, is there a commissioner that would like to make a motion or ask a question? The floor is yours, commissioners.
Sharon, do I have to read off the whole thing if I make a motion where it substantially complies and all that?
Not necessarily. You can just say,
Okay, I don't have that in front of me.
yes, in the staff report.
Yeah, so I would move that we accept the, I guess it's a proposal or request as presented. I think it's complies with our needs and requirements as a, oh, there it is. So you want me to read the whole thing? Is that, seems like what
Yeah.
everybody kind of does.
Yeah, well, you can, yeah. Because then we know, remember, this meeting is being recorded, so then there's no question when someone.
Approve the installation of 24 panels as specified. This proposal complies with the Secretary of the Interior Standard number 9 and number 10. Commission approved the certificate of appropriateness for this project. Approval of any final details to be delegated to the Historic Preservation Coordinator. And the commission, no, I don't need to read that part. No, so
You're all good.
that's my motion.
Thank you, Eric. Is there a second or support for this motion?
I second it.
Thank you, Dan. Any final comment before we vote? All right, hearing none. Casey, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Eric,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dana,
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
Yay!
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Indeed.
All right, case number 3, 740 Axtel. Do we have someone here to present that case?
That's me.
Thank you.
Al Hobson, I'm the owner.
Great. Could you walk the commissioners through your proposal, please?
Sure. Yeah, the decking on our front porch needs to be replaced. It's rotted. And there are 4 pillars across the front, and one of them has rotted and sagged. It's the one you see to the right there. It'd be to the east. So that needs to be propped up and braced, and the joists need to be either repaired or replaced. And then we're going to redeck the front porch. Redecking with, hopefully with AZEK composite. I've painted that about 4 times in 20 years, and I'm kind of tired of that. So I want to try, I found a 3.5-inch tongue and groove AZEK that's composite that will retain its color, guaranteed for 30 years.
And I apologize for not having photos. It's been a tumultuous week for me, so I didn't have an opportunity to. But the AZEK is actually, it is as thick as the original wood was probably when the porch went on around the turn of the last century. It has a lot of the appearance of, you know, the original wood decking. And just, you know, it's pretty good looking. I know that we had a project last month or the month before where we did not allow the Rattus decking to go on. We haven't tried the AZEK. I think that with the availability or lack of availability of good quality wood porch decking that will actually last more than 15 to 20 years, we're going to have to look at some of these alternative materials more closely. It's just, I've seen, I was just on a site visit the other day where I know the deck was replaced 15 years ago with the vertical grain Doug fir, and it is already beginning to deteriorate. So, this is something we need to consider.
One thing that's so frustrating about it is that the front 8 inches is what rots, because that gets the sun and the rain. And then you have 7 feet of fantastic, wood that's just sitting nicely and it's not buckling or anything else, but you're replacing the whole board foot for just the front 8 inches. And I have tried many things, different types of fillers and this and that, and types of paint. I've always used the paint recommended for deck porch with the sand in it and things like this. And I've tried several different ways to just get it up to standard, and the wood has seen its life.
Well, it's probably a century old.
Yeah. Yeah, we're approaching 150 on the house, so it's old.
Well, the porch probably went around the turn of the century. I don't think it states from the house, the original date of the house, but yeah.
Right.
So.
But this product is tongue and groove, and it lays down nicely, and there won't be screws visible. They'll be screwing from below the level. And
Hal, do you know whether the outer edge can be, normally what we like to see on porch deck boards is the outer edge is bullnosed. So it's rounded, so it drains well. Probably not as important for the longevity as it is when it's wood and you need it to drain away from the house. But that's
Right.
the appearance we're looking for. Do you know whether the AZEK can be routed so that it's a rounded edge instead of the flat edge?
Well, I've talked to him about that because we do need to have a trim along the edge. It's a different tan color on the inside than it is on the face color. So we'd have to have a trim strip along that. So that could definitely be routed. And then if we need to replace the one board, that's a simple process and easy to do. But yeah, we can definitely do a bullnose on the front of that.
Okay. But it won't be the actual planks bullnosed. It'll be a trim piece.
It'd be a trim piece in front of the ends of the planks. Yeah. Just because it's a different color.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what the description says, that it's a cellular coated or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I put in the agenda. So.
Mm-hmm. There's another company, it's called Cali Bamboo, and they make a bamboo composite, which is even less plastic and it's more green and stronger. But they only make back patio boards. They're only like 5 inches wide. They don't make anything in 3.5, and there's no tongue and groove. So I begged them for years, and
please.
they haven't come out with a product yet. But so this one is tongue and groove, and it's 3.5, and it does have a 30-year warranty on not fading or cracking and all this stuff, and it water resistant and slip resistant and everything. So it's a good product.
Do they comment at all about how hot it gets? I know some of the synthetic decking can get really hot, especially on southern exposures like you have.
Yeah, I don't have the stats on that now, but
I mean, just a point of advice, you might choose the lightest color you're willing to live with.
Sure.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, so the big thing is getting that pillar repaired so that that's square and level, and of course it'll have the drainage angle. But that's something I couldn't do on my own, and they're gonna prop up the porch while they repair around the pillar. All the pillars are wood and original, and all the railings will remain the same. And then I'll be able to paint everything.
So the pillar replacement will be wood, the column replacement?
They're just gonna patch up what's rotted. So it'll only probably be the bottom 4 inches of that column. And the pillars will remain the same. We're not gonna replace the pillars. It'll still be the same pillar.
Sharon, what's your experience with the trim board? I mean, it's a historical detail to run those planks out and that's the edge, as opposed to, running one perpendicular as a trim to cover up the edge. I mean,
well, I was just visiting a house that's getting a porch. It's a massive repair, but it's really just a repair. And they are planning on putting a trim piece that goes around the edge. In this case, because it's a curved shape. And that's going to be the most, useful way. And he's got a way figured out to do that and make it last. The previous one was 130 years old. My only concern about the trim is the appearance is going to be good. I think the longevity is going to be fine, but the expansion and contraction ratio of that trim and the decking as opposed to the wood that it's mounted on. That's my only question. And that's not an appearance question. That's a longevity question. And our major thrust here at the Historic District Commission, the most important thing is appearance, not necessarily longevity. So it's up to the commission. I think that we need to start looking at some alternative materials and getting to know them, because what's available to do the job the way that it might have been done in 1895, that amount of material that performs adequately is getting fewer and further between.
Yeah.
So
also, one of the ways that the decking is installed, there's a clip which allows it to move forward and back along the line of the deck.
So it slides just a little bit.
Yeah, so if there's some expansion or contraction, it can also move, toward the street and away, but it still stays within the tongue and groove. So rather than screwing it down and having it be, locked in solid, it allows for some movement there.
Yeah, I watched one of the videos on the AZEC site and it showed them nailing through, but if you use the clips, that makes a lot of sense. Then there won't be that issue. I mean, there probably is going to be some expansion and contraction, but it's not going to tear the porch apart or have a negative effect.
Yeah. Also, once I've been had this on the list for 5 or 6 years to do, but once it's done, I'm going to be doing some plantings in front of it as well. So it won't be, the edges of those won't be as visible. There'll be some bushes and things in front of that once the work is done.
So, Sharon, are we, I would feel really bad if we started leaning in the direction of, I guess, admitting or codifying that wood is just no longer available to do porches.
No, because it depends on the situation. It depends on the size of the porch, how much weather it gets. This is a south porch, so it gets the most abundant weather in terms of sun. It depends. It's all going to still be case by case. It just means that we're going to have an opportunity to have an installation we can watch and see how it actually performs, as opposed to taking the word of the supplier who's saying that it's going to be fine for 35 years. I mean, it might very well be fine for 35 years, but we need to see how it performs in our climate and see what we can take a look at and how it actually looks side by side. And then people will still, I would like to see a replacement material this extensive always come to commission for review, so that there's no, well, the neighbor did it, so I can do it. I don't think this is something. I would be much more comfortable with allowing solar panels located in the right place to be reviewed administratively than I would porch decking.
Yeah.
Because it's so important to the character of the house. And again, it could be a rear porch. Once we see, I mean, it might be that on a rear porch they want to use a synthetic decking, and since that's not as visible from the street, that could be okay. But either way, I think this should always come to the commission.
Also,
Yeah.
Axtell's only 2 blocks long, but as I walk along, I see plywood and I see all kinds of different, 2x4s and treated and all kinds of stuff up and down. And so we really are interested in keeping it, looking really nice and keeping the value of our house up. And we've redone a lot of stuff on our home. So.
Yep, because whatever was already in place when it became a historic district gets to stay, which is why you're seeing the plywood and the 2x4s, because it's like it was already there. So. Right.
So that there's, and a lot of the wood applications are just not working. There's a lot of chipping and repainting and the damage, and I don't see any that are successful that are using the wood.
Well, the last one that the commission reviewed, the owner decided to go with epee wood, which does come in a tongue and groove, and it's absolutely beautiful, but it's also a little on the high side for cost.
Yeah, and that's
environmentally either.
Yeah, it's not environmentally sound. Yeah.
Is it possible at all to do the majority of the porch in wood and then just do the high wear areas in this product? Can you blend the two products?
Not generally. Generally, among alternative materials, because I work with folks all over the country on this, there's very few commissions that will allow it to be patched in unless it's a separate level. Like if, say, the entry in front of the porch was up a step more, and then you'd step down to go onto the main porch, they wouldn't mix and match that, just because the materials tend to fight each other.
Well, and the other thing on that, Dan, too, is it came up in the last meeting, let's just do the stairs. Well, by the time you pay your shipping and everything, for a couple of boards, it's not economically or timeline and so forth, it just doesn't make good sense that way.
And also, it's not really from wear in front of the door. It's really weather wear all the way across. So you'd have to cut each board in halfway up.
Right.
And there's no choice under there to meet,
And I have yet to see any porch where they just repaired the worn wood at the front edge and had it work, even if they staggered the ends and everything. I've seen lots where they've tried it and it just really is kicking the can down the road a few years because it had to come up eventually. So
yes. New wine and old wineskins.
I would like to comment, if I may. Yeah, I voted no the last time around in a large part because I had no idea what was a Rattus. I wrote it down so I remember what it was. I did do some reading and research on it, and quite frankly, I feel like that particular product is making some outrageous claims that being a carpenter myself, I have a hard time believing that their claims longevity, but I will also concede with John's point from before that we do have to seriously consider some of these alternative products because we are getting limited in terms of our wood supply. That being said, I am a huge advocate for 100% raw linseed oil from the Allback company. And I don't know if I can endorse companies or not, but that's the one I use. I have been floored by the quality of that product. And I would, with my experience now in my home in the last 6 years, seeing what I've done with this linseed oil, not the stuff from Ace Hardware, this is a different product. I would bet that some of these other homes that were put in Cypress 15 years ago, if they used linseed oil, raw linseed, instead of latex paint, those porches would still be rock solid today. Now that's an opinion based on my one experience with my home. But so back to the product, the Aztec has gotten pretty good reviews from the reading I've done. My career as a carpenter, I mostly was that first generation stuff, the Trex and things like that. Some of the things that were composite, but looked a lot more plasticky.
Yeah.
So I really can't speak from experience having worked with these materials, but I would really like to see a handful of these projects go and then we can monitor them. We can, as Sharon mentioned, you got to know the product and how do you know it unless you give it a chance to see what it can do? It's in our notes. It's logged in the meetings. You can go back and you can pick to the day when that was installed and what condition it's in 2 years, 5 years, 30 years, if it makes it that long. So that's basically my 2 cents or 10 cents or whatever.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. They're hard, right? So here's my struggle: is where does it stop? Do we have a homeowner that comes in and says, "Oh, the south side of my house takes a beating. I really need to put vinyl siding on because I'm painting and scraping and I mean, I don't know. I struggle with this. I get it.
Yeah.
I totally hear what you're saying, Eric. Like I hear it. I don't want you to think I don't hear it. It's just,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know where,
You're right.
I
It
don't
can
know.
be a very slippery slope. I mean,
You know, if the
once you
railing
open
is,
that door, it can, you know.
Right. Well, speaking of the idea of that, a southern wall that gets a lot of exposure, there was a house in Stewart neighborhood on West Main that the southern exposure, the wood was just in really, really rough shape. The commission approved smooth surface hardy board to replace it. And the only way you can tell the difference between the two was obviously the old siding where it meets at the corner, you can see it. There's corner boards, but you can see the two sides together. Is that the old stuff has paint layers on it and the new stuff doesn't. But other than that, it looks the same. The exposure is the same. If they'd been a little more meticulous about making sure they lined up the rows, I don't think anybody, other than someone like Eric or me or Jeremy could probably tell the difference with it. So it's one of those things, and the commission did approve that. They said that was a reasonable accommodation to make a repair that needed to be made. But in that case, it has to be the whole side of the house. There's no slipping in a few boards where they're just worse damage.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I see it that way too, Sharon, is that we are homeowners and we are people who are interested in the preservation. People don't buy these homes to live in with the intention that they're just going to let them fall apart. And if you get too constrictive with your homeowners, you end up chasing them away. Well, what can I do? I'm just going to let it rot. It's too expensive to do what you want me to do. And so and maybe we can talk later in a meeting about how we set guidelines in terms of what's acceptable, when and where and how much. But I think we should be thinking for sure in that range and maybe doing some reading and some research and bring that back to the table.
I don't think any of you guys, in fact, none of you were on the commission when we did it. We did a retreat that was essentially as a commission, to consider alternative materials and learn more about them. If you would like to repeat that, especially next month, if we have like no applications or maybe only one application, it took about an hour to run through the whole thing. And if you're interested in that, I think that would be a really good way to familiarize ourselves with the decision-making process, but also what are some of the materials that are out there.
That would be very much. Yeah.
There was a metal roof that was put down on West South Street at 611 in 2003 or 2004. And we just, the commission decided to approve it based on that would give us a chance to watch and see how this material performs. Well, it performed like crap, and it's going to be all torn off and a new roof's going to go on. The company's gone bankrupt, the one that we're making the big promises. So, that's something else to consider, is that we're giving us a chance to see how something actually performs, how it looks in a real installation. While I wouldn't say we should do that at a lot of places, I think that's something that is going to give us an opportunity to learn more.
So on this product, what is it a composite of? What do you know what the materials in the composite is?
PVC and wood, most likely.
No, it's not. There's no wood in this one. It's what's called a capped polymer, which is why the heart of it is a slightly different color than the surface is, and why it needs that front board on it. It's a pretty good looking material. I like the feel of it better than I like the Rattus.
It has a wood grain and coloring to it, and
it's not an extensive wood grain. It's not like, it doesn't look like it's wood that's been left out to weather for 40 years with no paint. It is just a pretty much the same appearance you would get with brand new wood that you were laying down and painting.
I'm having such a trouble feeling good about approving plastic anything for historic home renovations on the outside, and then tying that completely in with us turning down another really great project, a month or two ago. And both those things have me leaning towards, I would probably say no. And because also I believe, I don't know if this product, but the last one, it was actually more of a premium product. It costs more to do the plastic composite board than a good wood as well. Is that a case in this situation, or is it a budget? Is that?
No, I'm not going off for cheap. I'm going off for low maintenance is what because like I said, 20 years, I've painted those 4 times.
Yeah.
And they don't last 5 years. And I've painted with the right kind of paint, and I've prepped it and sanded it and done the primers, everything that's required. Douglas and Sons and I were friends. You know, I've been talking about what I
In
do.
the business of selling paint.
Used to this, right? I haven't thought of taking it off and having it planed and put back on if I could, anything I could use. And again, the frustration is the front 6 to 8 inches rots. It gets the sun and it gets the water and it rots. And then you have 7 feet that's just fine, right? So I'm replacing 7-foot board for 6 inches times 22 boards across, you know? That's a whole lot of wood to throw out. That's a whole lot of wood to order. And it's because it gets the weather and the sun and the heat, things like this. And it's wood is not working in this application. And you know, you have old wood and it has a fine grain, and the woods that we have now don't have that fine grain, and it's cheap pine, and it's, you know, you can't find the old wood that we could find 100 years ago. So it's that we don't have the same resource.
So I am having a problem with the fact that we denied 2 months ago a very similar application. And I know we take these on a case by case, but I'm trying to distinguish the denial in that case with an approval in this case. And to the extent that we cannot do that, just saying it's on a case by case basis doesn't address the feeling that I think Tristan and Emily Watson are going to have about it's just capricious. So help, you know, I'd love to approve this, but Sharon, I need to hear how this is different than the application 2 months ago.
It's not really, other than the 2 products you're talking about, from what I can tell.
Not.
Well, and I'd like to, I mean, to me, I know it seems like a small detail, but that turned board is really, I mean, that's different.
Okay.
I don't know. In my mind, that's different. I mean, I work on historic properties. We would never do that. We would never run a parallel board that's, you know, going to notch around the columns and miter at the ends. We wouldn't do that if we were working on a historic property. I mean, to me, that's sort of a flaw in this too, but.
Hal, have you looked at any other materials besides the AZAC? There is one of the millwork companies can do cypress tongue and groove, and there's a house down on Bellevue Place where that cypress tongue and groove has been in place on the front porch deck for about 18 years now, and it's still looking pretty spectacular. I mean, there might be another wood that would work for you rather than using the AZAC, because the rest of this is just basic repair stuff. So that's just, you know, slam dunk. The only reason this came to the commission was because it was the different material, the new material.
Yeah,
2 local woods that are going to be. Oh, go ahead.
I would approve anything wood based, even if this was a composite that was like mostly wood. I would feel a lot more comfortable. But I'm completely in agreement that it feels like, Dana, like I couldn't in good conscience approve this project because we turned down that other one for, I think, were sound reasons then and are kind of sound reasons now. Yeah, just because, yeah, I mean, the wood seemingly is key for the preservation part.
Well,
There are 2 alternative woods that you could use. You'd have to source them locally, which is great. It would take some legwork on your part, but if you could find Osage orange or you could find black locust, my opinion is that those are the new cypress or the new cedar, though, because they grow quickly, they will be renewable, they will be locally sourced. Meets all those ethical demands, where any of the manufactured products don't meet those resource and sort of environmental needs. So you could try that as an option too.
There is a lumber yard. Where did I put it? There's a lumber yard out West Main that carries all sorts of woods that I haven't been there yet. That's one of those things that's been on my list of go and take a look and see what he's got. And you know, they might have what you need. I know that the millwork place up in Plainwell can do tongue and groove. If they don't have it in stock, they can do cypress. So I think there's some places that might be worth exploring. Oh, Handley's Lumber, 8342 West Main. Yep.
It's not actually Handley anymore. That business has been sold, but they do lumber there.
You still have lumber. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot more of the sort of like the big slabs and things like that.
Oh.
Decorative pieces, but I haven't been out there to see myself yet. So.
Mm-hmm. And that a lot of his stuff is locally harvested, so it's not going to be cypress.
Yeah.
I've checked many resources, and everybody, the first thing I go on, they say, oh, you're doing a deck. Well, put in your dimensions and then we'll send you a quote. And they don't have any listing of their prices. They don't have a listing of their materials. They don't have a listing of what kind of wood it is or this and that. I can't seem to get to a location. I can't seem to get an answer from anybody. It's like, we want to sell you a big thing, put in your dimensions, and then we'll call you back with a quote.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I have done that 15 times.
Okay, so
I'm tired of it. There is there's another composite, like I said, from Cali Bamboo, which is a bamboo product, and it's 70% bamboo, and bamboo regenerates in 6 years. It's even less plastic than the other. It's even less, it's more resistant to rot. It's more resistant to heat and torquing and twisting, and everything is slippery, everything else. It tests out really, really well. It tests better than AZEK. The only trouble is it's 5 inches wide. So I could put a 5-inch plank on my front of my house, if you like, but that's going to look like a back patio.
And it's not going to be a tongue and groove.
It's not going to be tongue and groove. It's going to have a 1/4 inch gap in between, and it's going to be 5 inches wide. So that, I can go with a product that's better than AZEK. And I would actually, that one is dyed all the way through. So if you scrape it, all you have to do is sand it down and it's the same color. So if you have any problems with it, you just sand it down. But you're not going to approve a 5 or 6 inch plank on my front of my house either. So, yeah. So there are products out there. Yeah, I know there are. But I need to go with 3.5, and I want to go with 3.5 because I want it to look like an old house. I want to look appropriate for the neighborhood and the age of the home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and I left samples there with you, Sharon. Did you see those?
Yes, you did. I did, and I've been working from home so much that I did not bring them back home from the office with me.
Okay.
So, and I apologize for that.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, I guess it's in your hands. Obviously, the repairs have to be made soon because there's rot there and we don't want it to go any farther.
Sharon, I'm sorry I was late arriving to the meeting, but is this a meeting where everybody, the decision has to be unanimous?
Yes, it does, because John is not here and Andrew is somewhere probably over the Rockies right now. So yes, it would have to be a unanimous decision. Now, with that in mind, however, Hal, if you wanted to wait and hold your application for next month, you could. I know that wouldn't let you get the work done this season. It's kind of a tight squeeze probably even now to get it done before the end of the construction season. But if you wanted to wait and so we had more members here, you'd be very free to do that.
Like table it to November?
Basically postpone till November. Yep. No, with no prejudice.
Okay, I could also find some other information about other materials maybe.
Yep, and if you, as you can hear by talking to the commission, that if you find a wood product that works, I could probably just approve it administratively as soon as you get me the details. If you stick with the synthetic, then it would have to come back to the commission, but that would give you time to maybe look at some other materials, you know, and see whether that would work. That bamboo sounds really neat. I think that there are some historic homes that had wider deck boards than the 2.5, 3.5 inches. But I think that the tongue and groove is part of the appearance of that, especially if it's, you know, going to show on the ends. But if you did the bamboo, you wouldn't have to put that edge board on.
Right.
Most,
the color.
sorry, I was gonna say, wouldn't most of those have been capped though, on your end grain anyway, Sharon, for aesthetics, as opposed to, like, when you see that end grain, that band board has probably been rotten off or been trimmed off.
No, actually, the vast majority of the ones that I've seen, the deck extends out about 1 inch to 1.5 inches past the apron board, and it's bullnosed, and you can see the tongue and groove all the way across the edge. Yeah,
And that's the way they did them. That's not an after. I always presume that after thing, because everything.
no, because if you have that, this isn't true for the AZEC, but if you have that board attached to the outer edge on wood, you know that's going to be the failure point, because the moisture is going to get in there. There's nothing to keep it out.
So is the end grain though, by that art.
The end grain, if you keep it, if it's nice and bullnosed and you keep it painted, it can last. I mean, I've got pictures of a house that I took up in the Keweenaw where the which is pretty brutal winters, and that those end pieces are still looking a little teeny bit of wear, and the house is 120 years old.
And does that have more to do with the amount of overhang that's on the porch, or does it have?
No, not really.
Okay.
No, because this space
I'm still learning all about.
Yeah, it is.
When was this was done?
And sometimes what seems like logical is not actually the way it turns out, which is why it's useful to actually see materials in place when we can, when we're ready for that. So
my house is about the same age, and mine has a cap on the front side, which was put on earlier, but not on the back side. So,
yep. It depends on the, you know, sometimes that's a solution to those nibbled away, you know, and
that could have been, I see what you're saying. The cap could have been an after solution.
Sure, they just cut it off and just put that piece on. So Hal, do you want to just hold off until next month?
That might be the wisest thing to do.
Okay, just postpone.
Yeah, and then if I find something between then that is a wood product, I could just get it approved.
Send it to me and I will approve it. Yes, exactly. So we don't need a motion to postpone, since we now have a recording of the applicant agreeing to postpone. So we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Good luck.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
What was the address on that one? 740?
740
Axtell.
All right, I'm going to push forward if that's okay with everybody. Item 9 on the agenda is approval of the minutes from August 17th, 2021.
I move to approve the minutes.
Great, thank you, Dan. Do we have a second or support?
Second.
Thank you, Eric. Those in favor, let's say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Administrative approvals, anything to report to the commission, Sharon?
Nope. I just numbers are up just a little bit, not as high as they have been in the past. It was not unusual in the early 2010s for us to have, by this point we would have topped number 300 already, and we are currently under 100. So the work is much slower, partly COVID, partly just economic downturn, but also people have done a lot of the work. So I am seeing a lot of roofs like right now. I need to get my roof on. Okay. You've needed it for 5 years, but now you need to get the roof on. I looked at one yesterday and I said, you don't really need a roof. I think your moss is doing fine. You just need to seed the south side and you're going to be great. I mean, literally was bright green because of that, but
That's funny.
Pretty.
Right. Other business, the one thing I wanted to ask was, we're coming to the end of the year. I believe this is the end of my 6 years. I don't know what that necessarily means, Sharon.
needs to recruit. You have to find us another architect, Jeremy.
I got one.
You do?
Yep.
Yes, and that person does not have to live in the city.
He does, because I told him he does, because he does.
Good.
So I'm going to connect him and you, Sharon, if that's okay.
Perfect, because we need to replace Carla, and I think we may need to replace John as well. I think he's at the end as well.
Yep, John and I started at the same time.
Yep, so we're going to need some new people anyway. So yeah, if any of you know folks that might be interested in serving on the commission, I tried to recruit Aaron or his wife Elizabeth, because they're old house geeks. So we'll see if we can get some people in there. I'm going to be sending out a call for applications next week for this commission and for the Preservation Commission both. So.
Can I be a member of both?
No, you usually can't be a member of two commissions. That's just generally across the board. You can, but it's, if we can't find anybody else, we'd be able to use you.
Right.
I wanted to fill you in on what's happening with my job. It has been officially posted. I think I sent everybody the link in case you're interested. The applications are due by November 2nd. We are hoping to do interviews the week after that. And we're hoping that we will have someone new in place by December 13th, if possible. Now, it depends on the person that we choose, whether they're able to be here by December 13th or whether they want to wait till after the holiday. But we are planning on, and we've been approved for a full month of overlap between the new person and me. So I'll be able to, really teach them the ropes. And I want to be sure that time includes one whole cycle of historic district and historic preservation commission meetings. So they know how you build up to that and what the process is. So we have sent it out to over 25. It's not just listed on the city website. I send it out to colleges, universities with preservation programs, couple of Facebook pages that I'm on a member of, like Historic Preservation Professionals. And apparently, according to my boss on Friday, we'd already had over 200 hits.
Oh, wow.
So I'm hoping that we get a nice range of applications from people who are interested, and we can find someone that'll fit in nicely here. So that's the plan right now. So I will be probably at the December and probably the January meetings.
What about you joining the commission?
I have to say I've thought about that, but I think it might be a little pressure on the new person, So I'm giving it consideration.
I think if it was the right person, it wouldn't be pressure, but it would just be some
safety net.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll think about that. I will give that very serious consideration, but
you are a real resource with experience and you've seen it throughout. And so it would be nice to have someone, to ask, on certain things.
Sharon's like, just when I think I'm out.
Yeah, man.
Great. Well, I appreciate everyone's time today. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Support for that motion?
So moved.
Great. Thank you, Dana. Those in favor, let's say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you very
Alrighty.
much.
See you guys next month.